Today we will discuss the chapter of differentiation. Actually, first we have to know the definition of differentiation in two manners. First, in y is equal to fx manner, then y is equal to suppose in first we have to tell the definition, then its geometrical interpretation, and the definition is in two ways. First way, what is dy by d by dx of fx? Simply d by dx of fx means limit h tends to 0 fx plus h minus fx by h. D by dx of fx is equal to limit h tends to 0 fx plus h minus fx by h tends to 0. There is also another definition. Dy by dx is equal to limit delta x tends to 0 delta y by delta x. And these two definitions actually mean the same thing. What is that? Suppose first I will give the geometrical interpretation of d by dx of fx. That is, suppose y is equal to fx is a curve. Y is equal to fx is a curve. We know this any point on this curve has coordinate what? Any point on this curve, suppose this is x-axis, this is y-axis. Any point on this curve has coordinate x, y. Means x, y you can write, or you can write it also x, fx. Suppose this point has coordinate x, fx, x, fx. Y is equal to fx is the curve. Any point on this curve has coordinate x, y, or you can write x, fx. Suppose this is the point having coordinate x, fx. A little distance, that means this is x I am taking, this is my fx. Suppose I am going to h distance. Suppose this is h distance. Then if its distance is x, then this distance is what? X plus h, because this distance is h. Now coordinate of this point is, this is x plus h, and this y coordinate is f of x plus h. Suppose this point is P and this point is Q. Now I am drawing a line here, a vertical line here, then a perpendicular horizontal line here. Then draw the line PQ. We draw the line PQ. Sorry. We draw the line PQ. Yeah. When I am writing when Q tends to P. Suppose this is what? This is a second. This second, when Q tends to P. Suppose I am doing this point here. This is the curve. This is sorry. Suppose this is P. This is P, this is Q. When Q tends to P, suppose Q is coming to this point. This second becomes what? This second becomes this second. Suppose this point is Q dash. When again Q coming to this point, it becomes this. When Q exactly tends to P, it becomes a tangent at this point P. When Q tends to P, this edge tends to 0, and this second PQ becomes tangent at the point P. So this means the geometrical interpretation of limit h tends to 0, f of x plus h minus fx by h is, this is what? This is fx, this is fx, this is what? Fx plus h, this much height, this to this point. Then this, what is QR? This QR is fx plus h, fx plus h minus fx. QR is what? Fx plus h minus fx. And this is our h. Now look at here. This PQR is a triangle. QR is perpendicular, whose length is fx plus h minus fx. PR is base, perpendicular by base. You know it is tan theta. If it is tan theta, then PQ by PR is QR by PR is what? So tan theta is equal to QR by PR. When limit, what is tan theta? The limit tan theta is equal to QR by PR. So indirectly, what is tan theta? Look at here. P by P, what is P? F x plus h minus fx by h is equal to QR by PR is slope of what? Slope of PQ. This is theta. Tan theta is QR by PR. Slope of the second is slope of second PQ is limit fx plus h minus fx by h. When this limit h tends to 0, both sides I am taking fx plus h minus fx by h is equal to limit h tends to 0 of slope of PQ. When h tends to 0, the slope of PQ, slope of PQ, I am writing it here, second PQ, SECANT, slope of second PQ. This second PQ becomes tangent at the point P. When h tends to 0, it becomes tangent at. So dy by dx means that is what is fx plus h minus fx by h tends to 0. It is called as d by dx of fx. So differentiation of a function is at a point is slope of the tangent at that point. This is the definition of d by dx of fx, that is differentiation. Next, the geometrical interpretation. I am treating that as definition 1 and this is as definition 2. Now applying this definition 1, I am doing one simple problem. Look at here, which is in your class 11 course. Suppose example 1. Suppose fx is equal to e to the power x. Very simple example. What is fx plus h? This is a very fundamental thing. Many students write like this. With my experience I am telling this. Many students like this, e to the power x plus h, which is absolutely wrong. Mind it. It is absolutely wrong. Suppose fx is equal to e to the power x. If I will write if f5, then only you write f e to the power 5. Because it's within the bracket here it is x. You write that thing here in this position, e to the power x. So So what will e to the power fx plus h? Fx plus h will become e to the power x plus h, not e to the power x plus h. You have to remember this line. This is very important thing. So I am writing it again. What is x plus h? X plus h is e to the power x plus h. Now tell me, what is d by dx of fx? D by dx, you have to write the definition again. Limit h tends to 0, e to the power x plus h minus e to the power x by h. Limit h tends to 0. E to the power x plus h, that is e to the power x into e to the power x minus e to the power x by h. You know it by formula of class 8. Now limit h tends to 0. You have to take common e to the power x. So it is e to the power h minus 1 by h. Look at this point. Here which one is variable? H tends to 0. So here variable is h. So e to the power h variable minus 1 h variable, h is variable. And e to the power x will treat as constant for this limit. So you have to put outside it e to the power x limit h tends to 0 e to the power h minus 1 by h. And you know the formula. I am telling like this manner. Limit e to the power jitna minus 1 by utna tends to 0. मतलब e to the power x minus 1 by x, x tends to 0. E to the power h minus 1 by h, h tends to 0. The result is 1. So e to the power h minus 1 by h, h tends to 0. The result is 1. So it is e to the power x. Okay? Now I will tell you again the same problem. Y is equal to e to the power x by the y is equal to e to the power x. We have to find dy by dx by definition too. We have to know both methods. So here I am, if let us say, here we have to write, let us give an arbitrary increment delta x to x, then the corresponding increment in y is delta y. So if I will give one increment to x, means increment means I will give a small little increment, means increase delta x to x. If I will give an increment delta x to x, then there will be an increment delta y in y. Don't think, if I will give increment delta x, then it will, the increment in y is delta x. It is delta y. There is very interesting story in it. गोटे गप थिला ताकू कहती निर्बुद्धिया रजा को पाळचुंटा मंत्री. गोटे राज्य रे ए गपटा को सुना बहुत बढ़िया लगे. ता सहित पाठर लिंक करी कहूछ. गोटे राज्य रे गुरु शिष्य जाउछन. गुरु शिष्य जिबा समय रे गुरु पठैछन्ती तीर्थर जाउछन्ती. से पठैछन जा तू बजार किछि मार्केटिंग रे जिंस आनी. से जाके मार्केट रे पहुंचला. पचारला लुण केते. से लुण केते केते कला 2 टका. आलू केते 2 टका. बागण केते 2 टका. चावल केते 2 टका. एटा आश्चर्य लागन सबो गां रे 2 टका. एटा जाके सुना दुकान रे पचारला. सुना केते एठी ना सुना भरी एठी 2 टका. माने एठी कोन सबो समान. एटू सेटू कहले हां एठी समान. काहे कि ना राज्य रजा नियम करछन एठी समस्त समान रेट रे सब जिंस बिक्री करे. एटू से जिंस धरि के आसिला. आसी कि रोसई पाखरे पहुंची गुरु रोसई करछथि. गुरु एठू कहले कौन केते पैसा कौन पड़ला ना आज्ञा ये गोटे अद्भुत राज्य ना कौन ना आज्ञा एठी सबु 2 टका सबु 2 टका ना कौन ना लुण भी 2 टका आलू भी 2 टका चाउल 2 टका आज्ञा सुना भरी भी 2 टका रोषे करिए कौन गुरु जहाँ परिया पत्र ये सी सब कहते जाओ फाड़ लगे सब लिभे लाभे देखी बस्तान बांधी कहले शीघ्र चले राज्य पड़े सी राज्य जाऊ जाऊ सागे सागे आसिक पुलिस कहला कौन ना दोष कौन ना चल शीघ्र ये गले कौन कौन है घटना बुझु बुझु कौन ना ये जो जे जे चेला ताकू फांसी दिया ताकू सुली दिया कौन घटना आमू कहीं शुणी दो आगे आम तो काली आसलु आज तो ये पलि जा चाहूँ आमर कौन अपराध है जे आम शुणी बसुटी आगे आम जानी था कहला गोटे कौन ना गोटे माँ कांदिकी कही जे सब भूल दोष कौन ना घटनाटा बुझु बुझु या जे गोटे से राज्य काली राति चोर चोरी करुला सिंधुक खोलिकी चोरी करुला चोरी करने समय से कांथ पड़गला से चोर मरीगला से चोर मरीगला जमी चोर माँ जा रजा पाखे फेरा दूचे आज्ञा मो पुओ तो चोरी करे किंतु देखो सी एमती कांथ घर करथिला जे कांथ पड़े मो पुओ मरीगला से रजा कहला एमती घटना डाक से घर का से आगे मालिक बजा ताको शुणी से रजा से घर मालिक को आज्ञा मु कौन करी मु कौन घर तैयारी कर मिस्त्री घर तैयारी कर ना किए से मिस्त्री ना मुझे डाकी आना धरी आना बसा ताको शुणी ताको नहीं शुणी बचा जाए कौन है आज्ञा ना कहला आज्ञा मोर कौन भूल कहला कौन ना आज्ञा सी गोटे मु काम करी घर काम करी से गोटे सुंदर झील चलीगला ताक तो देखो तो मोर भूल है इटा माप मु सिमेंट माप मु भूल करी कहला एमती कथा डाकी आना से झील बसा ताको शुणी झील को डाके झील पचारे तोर कौन कहीं मु कौन करी मुझे सन्यासी पाक जाऊली से चेला पाक जाऊली से खाଇବା जिनस देवाई कहले एमती कथा डाक से चेला बसा ताको शुणी से तुम आस कहले हेटू गुरु चेला कथबार्ता मुझे शीघ्र पलि देखिलु रही बोली एति असुविधा है हेटू तापर कौन है गुरु शिष्य कथबार्ता है कहले देख आम तोर मोर मरामुरी चल लगे कौन पे तू कह मु शुणी बसी मु कह मु शुणी बसी हेट दी जन झगड़ा लगे रजा का चेला कहले मु आगे मु बसबी तमें नुहे तापर गुरु कहे मु बसबी दी जन टणा उठर लगे हेटू रजा पचारे कौन है तुम कहीं टणा उठर लगुच शुणी बसा हेटू गुरु कहते ना बर्तमान गोटे ब्राह्म मुहूर्त अच्छी ये ब्राह्म मुहूर्त जी शुणी बस सी स्वर्गर रजा हम इंद्र हम एमती कथा है हट मु बस रजा जाजे शुणी बसा तेणु ये गोटे मानने अबुधिया रजा को पाल चुंटा मंत्री ये गप गपर माने इनक्रिमेंटा से लगे कौच लगे
सार
सपोज आम गोटे इनक्रिमेंट दबा कौन सपोज मुझे बढ़िया एग्जांपल गोटे नेक्स्ट एग्जांपल कहूँ सपोज 10 टन माने 10 टन गोटे टन टा केते 100 केजी सॉरी 100 क्विंटल 10 टन समान गोटे टन समान 100 क्विंटल गोटे क्विंटल समान suppose the potato is coming from Calcutta suppose a truck brings 10 ton that is 10,000 kg potato from Calcutta to suppose Bhubaneswar and its cost suppose 5,000 rupees 5,000 rupees RS 5,000 transportation for 10,000 kg transportation is but 5,000 rupees. Suppose a diesel per liter increases 1 rupees, 1 rupee increased per liter of diesel. Then to travel from Calcutta to Bhubaneswar, the total cost increases another 500 rupees. Suppose it is 5 increment is what? Increment is 500 rupees. So this 500 rupees will this 500 rupee increment will put upon this 1000 kg. So the cost will increase now what 500 y 10,000. So 5 paisa. So if diesel rate increased 1 rupees per liter, then the potato rate will increase 5 paisa per kg. If I will say if diesel rate increases 1 rupee, then I will increase the potato rate 1 rupee. It is impossible. It is just like that story. If diesel increases 1 rupee, then potato will increase 1 rupee, tomato will increase 1 rupee, salt rate will increase 1 rupee, rice rate will increase 1 rupee. It is not that is the case. If it increases, the diesel rate increases 1 rupee, then the potato rate will increase 5 paisa per kg, which is very negligible. So here if delta x will increase, here x will increase to delta x plus delta x, then y will increase to delta y, not delta x. Accordingly it will increase. So it is given example. What is that? Let us give an arbitrary increment delta x to x, then the corresponding increment in y is delta y. So y plus delta y is equal to e to the power x plus delta x. Now subtracting 2 from equation 2 minus 1, equation 1, it becomes what? It becomes delta y is equal to e to the power x plus delta x minus e to the power x. So delta y by delta x is equal to e to the power x into e to the power delta x minus e to the power x by delta x. So taking common e to the power x, it becomes e to the power delta x minus 1 by what? Delta x. So taking limit to both sides, limit delta y by delta x tends to 0 is equal to limit delta x tends to 0 e to the power x into e to the power delta x minus 1 by delta x. Here the variable is delta x, not x. So this, for this limit the variable is delta x, not x. So e to the power x will come outside. Limit delta x tends to 0, e to the power delta x minus 1 by delta x. It is e to the power x into 1 is equal to e to the power x. And this becomes what? It becomes dy by dx. After this, you know, if y is equal to sin x, dy by dx cos x, y is equal to cos x, dy by dx sin x. And you can prove by both definition 1 and definition 2. By applying definition 1, we have already taught how the differentiations of sin x, cos x, tan x has done. We will teach the chain rule by the definition 2. Now the problems, and those problems are differentiation by definition. So I have given 5 problems and I will do it, and I will do it in different manner. It may be lengthy, but in exam it is very easy to solve. Suppose d by dx of e to the power 2 to the power x square. You have to put first, let y is equal to e to the power x square. It is function of function, and we have to find dy by dx by definition. Let z is equal to x square. Then let us give an arbitrary increment x to delta x plus delta x square. It becomes what? Z plus delta z. It is equation 2. And what is delta z? Z plus delta z z plus delta z minus z is equal to x plus delta x square minus x square. You putting here z, it becomes delta z is equal to x plus delta x square minus x square. This implies delta z by delta x is x plus delta x square minus x square by delta x. Taking limit to both sides, limit delta x tends to 0, delta z by delta x is equal to limit delta x tends to 0, x plus a square minus b square. It is what? A plus b into a minus b. Applying this, it becomes 2x plus delta x into delta x by delta x. This limit delta z by delta x tends to 0, it becomes dz by dx. And it is what? If delta x tends to 0, it becomes 2x. It is equation 3. And I am writing it in a box, putting in a box. Now, what is y? Y becomes what? E to the power z. And giving an increment delta z to z, then it becomes delta y to y. So y plus delta y is equal to z plus delta z. Sorry, I am missing one line. That is, it is where delta x tends to 0 implies delta z tends to 0. Why this line is important? If delta x tends to 0, suppose it is 0, it becomes what? X square. Then z plus delta z becomes x square. X square is what? Z. So z plus delta x, if z plus delta x is equal to 0, then the value of delta z is 0. Similarly here, y plus delta y is equal to e to the power z plus delta z, where delta z tends to 0. If delta z tends to 0, it becomes e to the power z, which is y, implies delta y tends to 0. So y plus delta y, I am making one line, y plus delta y minus y is equal to e to the power z plus delta z minus e to the power z. So it becomes what? Delta y, it becomes e to the power z. You know it from previous, e to the power z into e to the power delta z minus e to the power z. If you divide delta z, then it becomes e to the power z, take common, e to the power delta z minus 1 by delta z. So taking limit delta z tends to 0, delta y by delta z, it becomes what? Limit delta z tends to 0, e to the power z, e to the power delta z minus 1 by delta z. So it becomes dy by dz. dy by dz is equal to what? It is e to the power z into limit delta z tends to 0, e to the power delta z minus 1 by delta z. So dy by dz is equal to e to the power z into 1, that is e to the power z. So putting it this box. Now I am coming to this point. Now what is dy by dx? By definition we know it is limit delta x tends to 0, delta y by delta x. Here one can write comfortably delta x tends to 0, delta y by delta z into delta z by delta x. Now limit delta x tends to 0, delta y by delta x into limit delta x tends to 0, delta z by delta x. But then now tell me, sorry, limit delta y by delta z into delta z by delta x. It delta x tends to 0 here and also delta x tends to here. Now look at this problem. If delta x tends to 0, if delta x tends to 0, then delta z tends to 0. If delta z tends to 0, if delta z tends to 0, this implies what? Delta y tends to 0. So, in place of delta x tends to 0, which implies delta z tends to 0, delta z tends to 0 implies delta y tends to 0. So, in place of delta x tends to 0, I can write delta z tends to 0. Delta y by delta z into limit delta x tends to 0, delta z by delta x, which is dy by dz into dz by dx. Which dy by dz is what? I am writing there e to the power z into dz by dx कहते हैं 2x e to the power z. What is z? Z is what? X square into 2x. This is the answer. This is the answer. So dy by dx e to the power x square into 2x. There is also another method. Y plus delta y e to the power x plus delta x square. But I am not going to that method because it is some tedious for the examiner.